Good afternoon, everyone. Please remember to turn your ringers off on your cell phones. And if you're not on our email list and would like to be, the box and the sheets are over there. Just fill one out and pop it in the box. Also, please remember that next Tuesday the library will be closed for Veterans Day. So there will be no lunch with books. Let's give a round of applause for all of the veterans in the house. All right, we will return on November 18th with a mild form of massacre, sandlot football in Wheeling. Our very own Sean Duffy will be doing this program about the sandlot football, which was quite popular up and down the Ohio River Valley in the late 19th and early 20th centuries, and even into the 50s. Teams like the Wheeling Tigers, Benwood Bearcats, Southside Columbia Club, East End Yankees, and Belair Bijou Billiards were heavily stocked with ex-high school and college players who, while not quite good enough for pro ball, were plenty fast and strong enough to brutalize each other every weekend in bloody grid contests that all too frequently resulted in serious injuries and even deaths. In this program, Sean will explore this wide-open era of cleats, sweaters, and the old pigskin, and the carnage it wrought. I promise you will enjoy this program, even if you don't like football. That's what Sean said. And today we have Alan Fitzpatrick. Most of you know him, so I'm going to let him take it from here.
Great. Thank you. Can you hear me? Everyone can hear me with this device? I'm sorry? Not too well. Cece, can you get her and just tell her? I'm going to get started. Thank you all for coming today to hear this talk. This will be my last talk here. I've been here many times. I want to thank Sean especially. He's been more than gracious in providing an opportunity, and the library as well, for hosting this. And so it's been wonderful for me. This is some of the lead up to this talk I've said online. This is my last book. Some of you are smiling because I've said that before, but this is different. This is different. And it's different because there we go. This is my best book. And what makes it my best book, is that I had the most help. I had the most help. And that help came from 3 Native American historians. And I could not have written this book without them. This is really their book, their guidance. And it's only in retrospect that I have come to realize, and I think it's been 30 years that I've been writing. I never knew where I was headed. I was sort of going from one thing to the next. And so what happened is, along the way, I gravitated to the Native side of the story of history that happened mid to late 1700s here and into Ohio. And that was a terrible time of war. It just was. A series of 4 wars. And it was terrible because from the Native side, which has never been told, this was their home. They believed God had given them this land, and they were invaded. And so they put up a struggle to fight. They were outnumbered. And that story has really not been clear because they couldn't write history. And in one generation, they're basically gone. And so woven into that story, as I was researching, is the possibility came up that many, many, many white people were taken captive. And on the white side of the story, and I've got 120 books at home, written by white guys, a lot of them angry white guys, that this didn't happen. They denied it. And for several reasons. If in an Indian raid somebody disappeared, they had no idea what happened to them if they didn't come back. And so they would write them off as dead. Now, those murdering savages killed them. And in fact, when you go to the native side, as I've learned, that's not what was happening. And so that's what this book is about, and is the captive story that has really not been told, that hundreds and hundreds of white people were taken by Indians and were not killed, and what happened to them. So what happened to them? And so we don't, when I go to those 120 books, there's nothing. There's little snippets. Maybe this person was living with the Indians, somebody's seen them, but there's nothing to go on. There's no documentation. There's none. And so the first inkling I had came when way back when I was doing research in the British archives. And just to give some background into that, Ottawa, Canada has, Archives Canada has a complete set of microfilm from the War Library in England. And what is significant is there's a collection called the Haldeman Papers, Haldimand. He was the general in charge of the Northern Department during the American Revolution. He was in Quebec. And there's 42,000 individual letters in there. And so there is ordnance, there's shipping gunpowder, there's naval stores, there's troop movements. And in amongst all those letters is a series of documents called Correspondence with Officers in the Field Serving in the Indian Department at Fort Detroit. Now, white authors have had no idea that this exists, or they would have quoted from it, not Alan Eckert, not anyone, because it's buried. It's not on, when I looked at it, it's not online. And the library here was able to get, through interlibrary loan, a microfilm, one reel at a time, that I could view upstairs, but could not take out. And so, I was looking for my ancestor, who was a loyalist, and in the process of doing that, I came across letters from literate white men in the Ohio country fighting alongside Native people that has been unknown. And one example is that we know from history, all the writers have said, that that notorious renegade Simon Girty was illiterate. And to the day he died, he couldn't write his name. But there's letters in there from Simon Girty. He was dictating to somebody who could write. So he's on this side of the river, he's accompanying, he's not leading any war parties, but he's along. He can speak the languages, he's interviewing captives. But the most prolific writer was Alexander McKee. And Alexander McKee had been from Pittsburgh. McKee's Rocks is named after him. And he went over to the natives in 1778. He had a Shawnee wife. He's living with them. He's an officer in the Indian Department, but he's never at Fort Detroit. He's interviewing every captive, every war party. He's helping distribute ammunition to the Indians from the British. And he wrote every day. Imagine that. And one of the letters I came across, here's my point, one of the letters I came across caught my attention. He interviewed a young man from Wheeling, Bryce Reagan. We know the Reagan family was here. And He's doing this in a Shawnee village in the Scioto River Valley. And so I went to the Colonial Archives for Bryce Reagan. Bryce Reagan's dead. The year's 1771. There's a war going on. The scouts here at Wheeling go out. Lewis Wetzel, Sam McCullough and his brother John. There's no sign of Indians. Safe to go out. What? You didn't check the hill across from the fort? There's a Shawnee scouting party sitting up there. And this boy goes out, he's 15 or 16, Bryce Reagan, and he disappears. There's no gunshots. He doesn't come back. 3, 4, 5 days, his parents lament, he's dead, he's died. And he goes into the archives, the Colonial Archives is dead. And that's all fine and good if it wasn't for the fact that the Shawnee War Party, Scouting Party brings him to the village in the Scioto River Valley, and there is Alexander McKee, who asks permission, sits him down, starts writing. Who are you? Bryce Reagan. Where are you from? Wheeling. How many men are in the fort? When did they last get gunpowder? Do you know where General Clark is? He's gaining military intelligence. 6 months later, he writes again. I'm reading a letter upstairs here. I think that's why my eyesight is close up is so bad anymore. Looking at microfilm, and here's another letter. In the middle of it, he says, I came across Bryce Reagan again. That young man from Wheeling, he's now adopted into a prominent Shawnee family and is fighting as a volunteer with them. What? How can that be if he's dead? He's not dead. And the Reagan family in the siege of Fort Henry here, 1782, the Reagan family is in the fort. We know that, their names. They don't know that because they're Shawnee in the outside. They don't know that their son could be out there shooting at them. And I was astounded because there's a discrepancy here between what's written on the white side or what's missing on the white side, that this fellow's dead, when in fact he's not. And more than that, he's fighting with Indians. How can that be? And so that was the first inkling that there was something wrong in this story from the white side. And the second inkling was even stronger than that. I think it was about 12 years ago, I get a call from a Wyandot woman in Oklahoma. Now, the Wyandot, we don't hear a whole lot about. It's always Shawnee and Delaware. The Wyandot in 1750 claimed what's now the state of Ohio, the northern half, all the way to Detroit. They were the most numerous. They had the most warriors. They were the most anti-white invasion. Paradoxically, they captured, I found out later, captured the most white people. And she's calling me. She had, someone had put in their lap, and by the way, they were on the trail end of the Trail of Tears. So they're in Oklahoma, and they have a tribal center, and someone had put in their lap Wilderness War in Ohio, and that was my research from the British Archives. And I talked about the Wyandot in there. And she wanted to buy some books for their tribal headquarters. And in the course of the conversation, she says to me, I have a white ancestor from your neck of the woods. And I'm thinking, oh, her aunt or her uncle married somebody from Wheeling. And I said, who? And she said, Adam Brown, captured 1763 in the South Potomac Valley, taken to Upper Sandusky, adopted, and never came back. And I made probably one of my most embarrassing mistakes in writing or talking to Native people. I asked her, I said, what's your documentation? She got angry. She lowered the boom on me. She said, do you mean to think that our people could write English back then? And that they would take a captive into their village and, oh, there's a lodge over here for the registrar. And they sit that captive down, and somebody who can speak English and write English opens a big book and says, "What's your name now? Where are you from?" She said, "Look, we have our oral history, and we have something else." And I never forgot over the years what she said. She said, "Every Indian knows their white ancestor." And she starts naming names. And I had a pen, and I'm writing as fast. People I'd never heard of. Because I had said, I have a list of 50 that I know didn't come back. And she started laughing. And she said, I said, "What's so funny?" And she said, "You white historians have no idea, have absolutely no idea how many people were captured, hundreds and hundreds." And that's when I said, "What's your documentation?" And they got me in hot water with her. But when she's naming names, she comes across Zane. And I said, "Boy, that's an odd name, isn't it?" And she said, "Don't you know who I'm talking about?" And I said, "No." She said, "Isaac Zane." She said, "You're from Wheeling. You should know." And she gives me a history lesson now. She knows the history of Wheeling better than we do because Isaac Zane was the younger brother to Betty Zane. I didn't know that. Who had been captured the same time Adam Brown was in the South Potomac Valley. He was 9 years old, taken to Detroit on foot. That's a hike. Clan mothers looked him over. That's a very important, when I say clan mothers, we'll get to that. Looks him over. He's adopted into a prominent family, Wyandotte family, and he immediately goes into warrior training. Here's a boy, there's no school back in the South Potomac Valley. He's been hoeing corn for his father from dawn to dusk. He's now shooting bow and arrow with other boys, running in the woods or practicing flanking movements on deer, which is also flanking movements used in warfare, was used against Braddock successfully. And married, fought in the Battle of Point Pleasant with the Wyandotte, was one of many white guys fighting against their own people. Married a chief's daughter, married Tarhee's daughter, and never came back. Had 7 children, and my goodness, I mean, that not only did she stand me on my head, but the questions came up. Why were they capturing so many people? Why? You know, what's going on, and what's happening to them that they're not coming back? Are they slaves? Are they held against their will? Are they brainwashed? That's how a white person thinks. Because I couldn't comprehend, and we can't comprehend, why someone wouldn't want to come back. And there's hundreds. And so that got me, I see when I bend over, it turns it up. I realized then I needed native sources. There's nothing in the white archives will answer those questions. Now, there's a lot of reasons why not. Because if somebody is captured and taken, as my Wyandotte source said to me, he said, "You know, our warriors didn't stop on the edge of the settlement and tack on a tree. This raid brought to you by the Wyandotte Nation. Thank you for your cooperation. Hope to see you again." The people coming to rescue have no idea who was there. They don't know Shawnee, Mingo, Delaware, Wyandotte, Miami. They don't know. And it is not in your best interest to try and follow a trail to a native village in times of war. You're probably not going to make it back. And so this led to me wanting to answer these questions, and that is what this book is all about. And I could not have written it on my own. There's no book like it. That sounds very egotistical. If my ex-wife was here, she'd say, That's egotistical. Uh, there's no book like it because this has never been researched at the time. It was impossible. There was a belief that that white people would never turn their back on their own people. There was a lot of racism towards people of color back then, and so that's how this book came about. Now, when you look at it, it says here a historical narrative. Why a historical narrative? There is no documentation. There's none. Oh my goodness, no documentation. Historians are going to say, call foul. If I'm going on oral history, well, they made it up to you. No, those days are gone now, but no documentation for several reasons. One, I've already stated, Native people could not write English. Imagine if we're invaded by, are there any Oriental people here today? No, okay, I want to say if we were invaded by the Chinese and we're captured by them and we want to write our story in the Chinese history books, but we got to learn the language first. They couldn't write English. They couldn't write English. There's no master list of everyone. There's hundreds, but no master list. You can say, oh, okay, he was captured by the Wyandot. Number three, if you're living on the frontier, if you're here on the frontier, I know something about you. You're a have-not. You're here because you're a have-not. My ancestor came to the frontier in upstate New York. He was a have-not. He was a poor, indentured Catholic, Irish, indentured to an Englishman. He's got a 7-year contract. If you're here, you've worked off your indenture, but you're illiterate. You and your partner, wife, have come here with your total belongings on one horse. That's all you have in this world. You have nothing else. And why are you here? Because you've heard there's free land to be gotten. Problem is you didn't check on the internet. This is somebody else's land, and they're going to fight for it. But there's no captive autobiographies. There's nobody said, I lived with the Indians for 15 years. I want to write that down. That'll be a good book. They're illiterate too. My ancestor was illiterate to the day he died. And so have-nots here don't write their story if they're captive. You see, and number four, there is just a handful of later in life people who had been living with Native people who someone tracked them down. Mary Jemison is a good example. She was captured mid-Pennsylvania. She lived her entire life with the Seneca. And somebody interviewed, and she says, I'm not coming back. This is my family. I live here. What, I want to go back there? No. And so for those reasons, we don't know the story. And the real story is this, and it boils down to this. If you're captured, what happens on day 2? How about week 2? How about the first month? How about 6 months? How about the first year? What is going on with that person? Nobody knows. There's no documentation on the white side. No one knows. Native people know, and these 3 people who helped me write this book know from oral history and from their storytelling. They know what would happen over the time. And so that's how this got written over many, many hours of interviews with these, because they didn't come here and they don't write books. And so the story opens Big Wheeling Creek. The two Wetzel boys were captured there. There's a conflict in white history. Oh, it was the Wyandotte. Oh, it was the Mingo. Let's remember something I've been told by my Wyandotte source. And he's an EMT by day. He's read all 120 books I've read. He's read more than that. He has the oral history of the Wyandotte, some of the Shawnee. Says, just remember this. Everything you read about Native people in history books has been written by a white person, not by a Native person. Has been written by a white person. That's a bias. Guess what? That includes my books over here. It does. I'm not Native American. I'm a white guy writing about Native Americans. He didn't say don't read it. He said take it with a grain of salt. There's a bias in there. And so, was it the Mingo? Was it the Wyandotte? So one white guy says this, white guy says that. No one really knows in that history. But that's where this book opens. And they said to me, look, stick to history. Because I said, how can I write about this? Stick to history. Stick to the facts. But now we're going to, he said, pick 4 potential captives. Mix it up. Some men, some women, different ages. Because captivity being captured was different from tribe to tribe, clan to clan, and the age of the person captured, and whether they were male or female. And so we did with their help. And as there is no playbook, I need some captives here. I need 2 people to come up here. Volunteers? Oh, she's shaking her head. You're just captured. Get up here. Come on. And please just stand over here. It'll only be a couple minutes. Please, come on over here. These 2 people, what's your name?
Mary.
Mary? And Bill? Yeah, Mary and Bill are living on the frontier. What I want to do here is illustrate. What are they doing there? Don't you know this is somebody else's land? No, they don't. And even if they were told, they've also been told there's just these 2-legged deer of the woods. These savages. So they're not going to leave. What they've claimed is all theirs. Now, they've been asked to leave. They're not going to leave. And now push has come to shove. Push has come to shove because Native people are outnumbered more than 10 to 1. One of the biggest complaints that white people made in history was, why didn't those Indians come out and fight us out in the open? Look, when you're outnumbered 10 to 1, so they're living in a cabin and their neighbors, a war party is going to hit them. They're coming a long way. It's only 6, maybe 8 warriors maximum. They're coming from, and if it was Pluggy's town, that's a huge Mingo town just in downtown, what's now downtown Delaware, Delaware, Ohio, just north of Columbus. They're coming that far, and they're going to hit this cabin. 5 minutes, tops. You raise a musket, you won't even get off a shot, you're dead. You raise a musket to protect them, you're dead. But if you don't, Mary, when that rescue party comes in hours, they see the smoke from the cabin, or the next morning, Bill is dead, the cabin's burned, and she's gone. And when she don't come back 2, 3, 4 days, those murdering savages killed her. Simple as that. But they didn't. That's the story we don't know. They didn't. What she doesn't know, she thinks they're going to kill her at any minute. The warriors take her. She thinks they're going to kill her at any minute. But if they were going to do that, they would have done it right there. Because you know what? I hate to say it, but Mary's a pain in the ass.
He's verifying that.
Because they're on foot. They're on foot. They may be pursued by people on horseback. And they've got to go all the way back to where they came with her. Why? Somebody has mandated, bring us back captives alive. I'm going to get to you in a minute. Bring us back captives alive and unharmed, and if they're women, unmolested. And she only finds out when she learns where they're headed. Now, because she thinks they're going to kill her the whole time, she's full of dread. But on the way, her shoes start to fall apart, and a warrior pulls out of his bag a pair of moccasins. It's a gesture. He puts them on her feet. Her hands are tied. She might have a rope around her neck. But puts them on her feet to make travel easier. That's a gesture that you're not going to be killed. She may not know that. But when they get to the village, she finds out everything. And at the village, everybody knows there's new people coming. Gee, we got new people coming. Let's see who's here. And the warriors are going to turn her over to someone who's waiting. Who's waiting is who has mandated bring her back. And it is not the village chief. It is not the war chief. It is not the warriors' council. This is who it is who we have not understood in history. It's women. This is a matriarchal society. They were matriarchal. Those 120 books written by white guys, they wouldn't know what that word means. And even if they did, they wouldn't believe it. What, women run something? Impossible. But there's a council of women waiting, and the warriors are going to turn her over. And who they are, if there's 6 clans in that village, turkey, porcupine, deer, wolf, etc., turtle, each one submits their most mature woman, and there's a council, and these women are waiting on the edge of the village because there's going to be a selection process. The whole village is going to wait to see what happens. And so the warriors turn her over. The first thing that the clan mothers do is to see if she's been violated. That's called rape. Because if that has happened, that warrior is going to be expelled for life from family, clan, and village. That's worse than death to a native person. Because that's the mandate. These are women with power. And when history really got written by 1850s, the writers are mixing up what's happening west of the Mississippi, which is horse culture, which is patriarchal. If she was captured by the Comanche, the Kiowa, the Cheyenne, when they got far enough away, they would gang rape her. That's just their way of saying, hi, you're now captured by us in a man's world. So there's going to be a selection process. They're going to look her over. Would you help me look her over? Come on. Stand up. She's a clan mother. She's the head clan mother.
I already took her. She's going to clean my tent.
She's standing straight.
Yeah.
She looks like she's a good worker.
You think?
Well,
Good health. Can
she's
we see her teeth?
she's of childbearing years. We come to the conclusion she's a candidate. So you're going to put a dab of red paint on her forehead? Go ahead, it's symbolic. Right. Thank you. And she's not going to run a gauntlet. That's white man's fiction. That's fiction. They're going to motion other women to come over and take her. She's traumatic. She may have seen Bill killed. She's come a long way. She's exhausted. She's hungry. She's dirty. They're going to bathe her, clean her, get her new clothes, and get her ready for a adoption ceremony coming up. Now, why is the question? Why do all this? And the answer is these are very wise women. And they have taken a look at what is happening in their village and other villages. Their population is dropping. And it's not just casualties in war. When Cornstalk, after the Battle of Point Pleasant, and he called off his warriors at a certain point, they weren't losing. That's white fiction again. Oh, we're winning this battle. We defeated them. No. They took enough casualties. He said, no more. He said, we could kill 100 Virginians today, and there'll be 100 tomorrow to replace them. We don't have those numbers. But there's something far worse happening in the village. And that is, and which the women seen, and that is, pardon me, I'm going to have a drink here. In times of, there's lulls in between these wars. And during a lull, traders would come, white traders would come from Pittsburgh, bringing a string, 10, 12, 15 horses, loaded with pots and pans and kettles and blankets and ribbon for women to sew with and clothing and gunpowder, everything imaginable. And they have something else they're bringing. They have a cough. And the guy has a girlfriend. And soon she's coughing. And soon half the village is coughing. Now, he's going to go back to Pittsburgh, cough all the way back. Probably by the time he gets there, he'll be over it. Because he has some immunity. But native people did not to white man's diseases. And soon the whole village is coughing and has a fever. And now the elderly begin to die. And children die first. And so these women have said, across the villages have said, what are we going to do to survive? We don't have a birth rate that can replace these losses. We're going to adopt. We did this before contact with white people, and we have absolutely no prohibition about color. They adopted African American slaves who had been captured into their tribes. They adopted white people, they adopted other natives, and they're going to look at Mary here as the possible candidate to adopt. Now, pardon me? Not everyone took to adoption. And if you've read the book Follow the River, James Alexander Tom, I met him when he was here. He made it sound in his book. He's a white guy. He's writing about Native history. He made it sound like every captive wanted to escape. That's not true. She was the exception, but she did not take to adoption. And so she escaped. But most did, and most never came back. And so Mary is going to go through an adoption ceremony that is so weirdly like Christian baptism. They're going to take her to water, go down white, come up red. When you're adopted in this matriarchal society, you are equal as if you were native born. You have the same rights. Women can marry who they want and divorce who they want. They can own property. They can come and go as they please.
But no, I didn't know that. I don't know the language, so why don't I try to escape?
Well, yeah, we're going to get to that. And so, why would they bring him back?
They didn't. They killed him.
No. In this case, they brought you back. Why would they bring him back? He is, those women know he is an adult white male. He is the enemy. He will never, ever take to adoption, ever. He has learned from the time he was this big that Indians are to be killed, and he may have killed some, and he would like to kill some. So why bring them back? Somebody had to carry the pots and pans from that cabin. They don't have a horse. Bill's the horse. He's loaded up with pots and pans and staggers back to the village, and when he puts them down, his use is over. And they should know, she should motion a warrior to come over and sink a tomahawk in his skull. He's the enemy. But wait a minute. These are wise women. These are wise women. They look him over. I need the clan mother again. Come on up here. Let's talk about him. I don't know about him. What do you think?
I plead the fifth.
Is he worth a horse, do you think, or just a couple pots?
Couple pots.
Okay. What are we talking about? They're not going to kill him. They're going to ransom him. Remember, there's no traders coming with pots and pans. So he's worth something. And so you put a dab of red paint on his forehead, go ahead. All right. And then I put a dab of black next to it. The village howls. They know what that means. They start setting up two lines. He is going to run the gauntlet. Thank you. And they start getting sticks and clubs and everything ready, and two warriors come over and strip him naked. He's going to have to run from here to that brick wall.
Today?
But does anyone know what that red paint means? A head clan mother put it on there. What does it mean before he runs the gauntlet?
If he makes it,
It means
he has a chance.
don't poke his eye out. Don't break his arm. We're trying to get a horse for him. They're going to take him when he heals up. They're going to take you, Bill, a clan mother and a couple warriors to British Fort Detroit. They're going to knock on the door of the British commander. He comes out. He's English. He's got in his red coat all laced up. And through a translator, and Bill's bound up, the clan mother says, we want to ransom him. And that Englishman looks Bill over and he says, that despicable rebel who has disobeyed the King of England? I won't ransom him for anything. Be gone. He's my enemy. And the clan mother says, oh my goodness, that's right. I forgot he's your enemy. Your enemy is our enemy. Good. Thank you. We're going to take him outside the fort and we're going to burn your enemy over a slow fire. And they take him out. Now what is she doing? She's calling his bluff because she knows that that Englishman's skin is as white as this captive. That Englishman doesn't like natives either. He would rather be at some other place than Fort Detroit. He figures I've done something wrong to get posted way out here. But she's calling his bluff. He's not going to let them burn somebody and have Bill howl for 6 hours before he's dead outside the fort walls. She goes home with a horse and 2 pots, and Bill is going to be put on a ship that goes to Fort Niagara, British Fort Niagara, Montreal, Quebec, and he's going to sit on a prison barge and be exchanged in a prisoner exchange in the war that is still going on. Thank you both. Yes. And so, that is an example of what was happening to some captives. And that now brings me to the high point of why this book was written. And that goes back to something Julie West said to me, that Wyandotte woman. She said, we assimilated over 400 white captives who never come back. She used a word I had never heard before, assimilated. Assimilated. I didn't know what that meant. And So what was it? And the interesting thing is I came across, and it's on the inside of this book, the first page, there was a fellow named Felix Rennick, and he lived in the South Potomac Valley. That's Hardy County now, Hardy County, West Virginia. And he had a neighbor during Pontiac's War who had lost a young son. And many years after the war, this son comes back to visit, not to stay, to visit. And Felix took an interest. He had a curiosity as to, he had never seen anyone come back and then leave and was never seen again. And he wrote, "It is easy to make an Indian out of a white man, but hard, if not impossible, to reclaim that white man after being converted, assimilated." I'm hearing those words from Native people and from this fellow, Felix Rennick, that something happened to captives. And that's the high point of this book. That's why this was written. Because my background is psychology. I wanted to know why. Why? And I came to the conclusion it was an indelible mark put upon the mind of the person. Indelible, unchangeable. It is akin to PTSD. It's akin to traumatic. But it's the reverse. It's the positive side. Something positive happened to these people that changed their whole view in life. It's why they didn't come back. And that's where my native sources said, well, it came down to some elemental things. And number one, I don't know who I was talking with here, but the number one thing is language. You're captured. You don't know what they're saying about you. You think they want to kill you. But there's somebody already assimilated. There's a white person there. There were many. If you were, this is not in the history book. See, there's white people there who can speak English still. And they go to you and they help you translate if you're a captive. And they say, no, they're not going to, they want to adopt you. They like you. And as the months go by, you as a captive begin to pick up the language. There's no other choice. You want to know what they're saying. And as you pick up the language, you find out they like you. They want to interact with you. It's a matriarchal society. It's women. Women want to interact with you. They want to know what you know. They want to know what you can bring to them from the white side. How to use a fork, as an example. And so that's the first step. Because it opens the door to a new world. You learn what they're saying. You learn the songs. You know what they mean. You learn the jokes. They were great storytellers, and they loved to tell jokes on each other. And so as a captive, you learn that. Number two, I've already said we're adopted into a family, and that doesn't mean you're their slave. They have lost someone, either to disease or war. In a native society, you replaced that person. Not with the same name, but they're going to love you. They're going to esteem you. They're going to treat you as one of the family. And if it's in a matriarchal lodge, if it's in a big lodge, there's grandmothers and aunties and sisters and that sort of thing that are going to make you feel comfortable because they esteem you. You find a better life than the one you left. What? Mary here, when she was living on the frontier, remember she's a have-not, to make ends meet for her and her husband, she works as a washerwoman. Now, in colonial society, it don't matter if you're on the frontier or Philadelphia. It's very rigid, vertical, with no upward movement. There's the rich, the gentry at top. There's the military. There's the civilian leaders. There's the skilled artisans. There's the unskilled artisans. There's the farmers who are going down the ladder. There's the skilled laborers. There's the unskilled laborers. She's a washerwoman. That's where she fits in right there. Below that is African American slaves. At the time period, they aren't viewed as property only, but they're valuable property. At the very bottom are the Irish indentures and the German indentures, and because they're there under a contract. And if if an African American slave got sick, you doctored them. You kept them in clothes. As bad as slavery was, you've paid money. An Irish indenture, They get sick, you can kick them out. You got a contract they can tear up. So she, as a washerwoman, was never going to marry a gentry. She's going to clean his house and do his laundry until her back gives out. But when she is taken to the village, they don't say, the clan mothers don't say, "What an impressive resume you have. You have been quite the washerwoman. And we really need a washerwoman. Look at the laundry stacked in front of all these lodges here. Welcome to the Wyandotte, Mary. We'd like you to get to work right now." She's free. She can marry who she wants. She can divorce who she wants. Guess what? In Native society, if she wants to marry a warrior, her mother, even an adopted mother, has to meet him and is going to quiz him. "Are you a good hunter?" "Oh, yes, I'm a good hunter." "Good. Deer tomorrow, right here." And if she goes to her adopted mother and says, "He's not the man I thought he was. He doesn't hunt too often and he's lazy. I think he's gambling with some of those other." She says, "Daughter, I take care of it." There's a native tradition, it's called tossing the moccasins. And that's where the mother takes care of it. She gathers his things, because guess what? When she married that man, they moved into her mother's lodge, not his father's lodge. And he is a house guest. And so she gathers his things and tosses them out the lodge door. And the farther they go, the more it means, "Don't show your face here again. You're not welcome." Children, they're going to stay with her. They're going to be raised in this matriarchal, communal society. Aunties and grandmas and sisters. And when a boy gets of a certain age, he goes to warrior training. You see, so these things happened, and that's the better life she went to. Because in colonial society, you could not divorce your husband. You needed his approval. He ain't going to give you approval. He owns everything. And so now she has a different kind of life, and she's respected. And you can say to me, "You know what? That's what they told you. They wanted you to think that way." Listen to this. William Wells, captured by the Miami. That's a Western Ohio tribe. "The Indians are much kinder to their neighbors and to strangers than the whites are." And he's white. Has been adopted. John Bricknell. "They treated me very kindly and in every way as one of themselves." John Hunter. "The whole tribe treated me with regard and tenderness. They took every opportunity and used every means which kindness and benevolence could suggest to engage my affections and esteem." Margaret Pauley. The Indians demonstrated an attachment towards me as ardent and affectionate as any I have ever known among white friends or kin. Francis Slocum, I have always lived with the Indians since I was captured. They have treated me very kindly. I am happy here, and I shall die here. So, they were treated genuinely, and so as the day-to-day interaction, 2 years, 4 years, 5 years, in this Native society, this is contrary. All that white people know is that they are savage fighters. They were. Warriors are outnumbered. They're going to fight savagely. But this is life in a Native village. It's so different than what they left. The day-to-day living there, the past becomes dim. You don't think about life back where you came from. You learn to speak the native language. In speaking the native language, you begin to think. That's part of this neural imprint. You begin to think like them, and you begin to act like a Native American. There is a desire, a human universal desire for us to be accepted by our peers. And that was no different for captives. They wanted to be accepted where they were at. And that was a part of the deal too. This was a transformation by becoming. And that happens when you stand in somebody else's shoes. And if you never stand in their shoes, you will never understand them. So it's that simple. And so what I haven't talked about here, because I'm hoping you'll buy the book too. And I've probably given away everything. Oh, she's shaking her head now. Thank you. Is what happens if you want to visit, go back. What is going to happen? You see. Questions? Yes.
Hold on. I'm coming with the mic. Raise your hand.
When they raided the villages, when the Native Americans raided the colonist village or home, what did they do with the babies and the young children? Did they take them back as well?
This transformation happened the easiest to children. But let's say that I'm one of those 6 to 8 warriors, and we hit this cabin, and there's babies. There's a baby there. And we've got to get away, and we're going to be pursued. We can't take that baby with us. We can't carry it. So why didn't they leave the baby? What they do is they kill the baby. A blow to the head, or why not just leave the baby? What about the wolves? They would tear that baby apart alive. We're forgetting that is also there. If you're a captive and on the trail and you fall and break a leg, they can't carry you. They can't. They're trying to get away. They're going to leave you and you be torn apart. Wolves are everywhere. See? They're probably going to knock you on the head. So this is the harsh reality of war. And it's hard to comprehend it, but if you stand in their shoes, it becomes clear. Questions?
We can do one more audience question, and then if you have other questions for Mr. Fitzpatrick, you can talk to him up front here after the program.
Yeah, I'll be here. What, till 5? Can I stay till 5?
Very funny. So just raise your hand if you have a question.
Yes.
What were the papers you talked about researching in Canada that are upstairs also?
No, they're not upstairs. Archives Canada and this library developed, they didn't have it at the time, a interlibrary loan where I could get one roll of microfilm at a time and view it in their viewer. I could not take it out of the library. This was one reel of hundreds that are in the Haldeman papers. What happened is England took photographic microfilm pictures of every single letter of the 42,000. So if Alexander McKee, where that bit about Bryce Reagan is in there, was in a 12-page handwritten letter, it took me several weeks to be able to, that old English way of writing is not easy to decipher. But here's a 12-page letter to go through it page by page by page of this intelligence that he's sending. Yeah, Haldeman Papers is the total collection, and there's many subsets within that. And when Haldeman retired, he went back. He was Swiss, but a general in the British Army. He took his papers with him, and then in the 1850s, his family donated these ledger books, because here's a guy who's sending out orders to Fort Detroit, move the second company of the 8th King's Regiment of Foot to Fort Michilimackinac. He wants a copy of that written, and he's got one man who spent the whole war just copying his letters to there, so that he can come back and see, hey, I told you guys to move that. Get moving. And likewise, anything coming in. Matthew Elliott wrote letters. He was from Pittsburgh, but he had about a third grade education. And the fella copying this to a T wrote down the phonetic words that Matthew Elliott, and it's like, so what language is this when I looked at it? But he wrote it down for the general as it came in. Well, thank you very much. I want to say one other thing. I have my books here. I'm both the